Good afternoon. My name is Paul Mancini. I'm representing Wailuku Water Company. Mr. Chumley is with me today, and Aloha, thank you for coming.
Mr. Mancini, maybe if you could just talk in the mic. Thank you.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, my voice is not very good. I apologize for that.
In the mic.
Oh, this is going to be, okay.
You can move the mic.
You can remind me. If I,
The whole mic closer.
is this better?
Yeah.
This
All
work?
the way up close.
Okay. As I go on, please interrupt me if I, again, aloha. We appreciate you being here. We've been at this for maybe 15 or 17 years, whatever it is. I'm not sure this is a aloha hearing, but maybe, if we're lucky, it may be an aloha hearing. We filed exceptions back in January 2018 when we had concerns on 3 matters. Number 1 was the hearing officer's recommendation concerning impertinent rights. Number 2 was the recommendation concerning the increase in the IIFS OIA stream from 10 to 14 million. And the 3rd was our concerns with regard to the implementation program that was being advocated and part of the decision and order. Those were the 3 matters that were of concern to us. I'll take them briefly, and I'll try to be concise with each. With regard to pertinent rights, and the past speaker indicated that for his client, he felt that the hearing officer's decision that was correct. We have a problem with that. The real issue on that matter is whether a grantee of an impertinent right has any control of the impertinent right. This is a clash between our Supreme Court in the Wailuku case and the logic and the position of the hearing officer in this case, who relies upon the 1987 legislative piece of work which indicated that pertinent rights are preserved. The Wailuku case, to make it simple, basically indicated that an impertinent right is similar to an easement. There's a burden property and there's a benefited property. Burden is the water course, the benefit is the land on it. But it indicated it was a grant to a grantee, and the grantee therefore maintained control over it. And the grantee, having control over it, can terminate it. Can terminate it on a transfer, or by reserving it, it terminates the pertinent right. The hearing officer's position, of course, is in opposite of that. The hearing officer felt the Constitutional Convention dictates to create the water code, and the legislation in 1987 to indicate pertinent rights are preserved, and pertinent rights cannot be denied to one who's a holder of a pertinent right, that amends the Supreme Court case, and pertinent rights after that time in 1987 are perpetual. They attach to the land, and the grantee no longer has any control of it. The question is that the intent of the legislation? To preserve an pertinent right, you preserve something in its natural state. The question is, what is an pertinent right? Is it a right that automatically goes to the land in perpetuity, or is it a right to the grantee who can maintain some control over it? The principle of law, and of course there's arguments about both sides of this issue, but the principle of law is the interpretation of our laws basically come from our Supreme Court. The lower courts, the municipalities, and the administrative bodies like yourself basically are to comply with the interpretation by the Supreme Court. To look at this in the long run, I don't think this will be the last time we're looking at this issue. I think the Supreme Court will look at it again because we get divergent opinions on it right now, and the legislature may look at it once again. You have your counsel. This is strictly a legal question. There are not too many facts involved. We can go back to the research it, but I don't think it'll tell you what the intent was. And to tell you what the intent of the legislature is, and that, it's very difficult. All we have is the language. So that was our first point that I'd like to cover. The second
Sorry,
one,
so just for clarity, Mr. Mancini, so you're saying you agree with, or parking rights can be extinguished? Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
my position, I'm not sure that I totally agree with the Raccoon case, but my position is that's the law that we should follow at this point in time.
That they can be extinguished by a grantee?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's what the law is under Raccoon, and I don't believe that the legislation amended that. Our Supreme Court there is to interpret the laws. To look at it. The second issue we wanted to look at was, of course, the increase in the IIFS in Waihe Stream from 10 to 14. And our concern was, and still is, that the Waihe Stream is an important stream, and the hearing officer, in our mind, didn't accurately calculate the demand on that stream. He indicated the demand in the stream is 8.3 million gallons a day. He felt, well, with a minimum flow of 14, there was some excess. With a minimum flow of 14, there's no water at all, because that's the IIF is being recommended at 14. But our concern was that the hearing officer didn't look at the fact that there was 17.9 million gallons that are attributed to multiple streams. And there's an additional 5 million gallons in system losses. And you have to take a look at what those allocations are contributed to the Waihe Stream. The Waihe Stream is the most powerful